There are a number of things that you can do in Photoshop. I mean, there's just hundreds of things. Last month, I did one on Photoshop Actions where you can record different steps to doing a certain function, kind of like in Excel where you could do the same thing if you ever used Excel. But in Photoshop, you call them actions. Well, there's another one called patterns. And so it's a way of creating background patterns, mainly is what it's used for. And so a pattern is an image that's repeated. You'll see this on websites or brochures, scrapbook paper, that sort of thing. And you can create those yourself, either using your own image or something that you can find in Photoshop, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. The Photoshop patterns comes with preset patterns that you can select, or you can import your own, and I'll show you how to do that. If you're doing some of the other functions, such as your paint bucket tool, your pattern stamp, healing brush, patch tools, different ones, you'll have access to those patterns immediately there. There'll be a way that you can pull those up. And I'll go through those more when I do brushes next month. You can change how the patterns are displayed in the pop-up panel, so I'll go over those. You can manage pattern presets. And so once I finish these slides, I'm going to show you on Photoshop how to do all these to create your pattern. So you find the patterns under the Window Patterns menu. You select patterns and then your panel will appear, and I'll show you that. This is a sample of a pattern, and you can see this blue block in the middle. This is your repeating panel. And so anything you put in this panel will be repeated on the whole background, depending on how large you make that your entire image. You can see that these are the little flowers are overlapped. It doesn't matter how these are displayed in here, they will repeat that way. And I have tried using backgrounds sometimes and things are cut off and it just doesn't work as well. So this is a great way of making your own backgrounds. And this is another sample of a pattern. This is the pattern zoomed in, and this is zoomed out. So you can see here they put a little vine in between the flowers, and then they put the small one in between here. And so it's repeated throughout. On the patterns menu, this is your pattern options for your menu. They have some default patterns that are loaded. These legacy patterns, you can click on it and it'll load a whole bunch more patterns. And as I said, I will go over all of these functions. These are the pre-loaded ones. You have grass, trees, water, and then the legacy patterns. And I sorted these by alphabetical because I just like things appearing that way. And anytime you see a file that is coded with .pat, that means it's a Photoshop pattern. So you can immediately recognize it. Brushes is a .abr. And then you have shapes. And this is the menu for the shapes. And we're going to be using those tonight to create our pattern because it's a quick and easy way just to demonstrate. So these are the presets for the shapes. The ones with the arrow are defaults. All these others are some that I've had that I loaded in here. The CM means that I got them from Corinne. She shared those. So it lets me know which are the defaults and which are not. Preset, well, the shapes is identified by .csh extension. To create a pattern, these are just links that I'm sharing to you. These first four are all Adobe instructions. So you'll go directly to the Adobe website and it'll go through what we're going to do today. So you can refer to those, refresh what we talked about. Some resources. This one, Brush Easy, I love it because they have not only patterns, they've got brushes, they've got all kinds of resources that are available that you can download. Some are free, some you have to subscribe to getting them. And I've gotten tons and tons of free brushes and patterns and stuff from there. Adobe Stock also has patterns, and you can also just Google for Adobe patterns, brushes, actions, whatever, and you'll get just hundreds of resources. Some are offered for free, some you may have to pay for. So you can just kind of research all those. So what we're going to do tonight is create a pattern. It won't look maybe as pretty as this, but anyway. So I'll share Photoshop with you. This is one I just created today. I'm going to do one from scratch. It's not very pretty, but it gives you an idea of what can be done. When you select one of these patterns here, we go to the selection tool. Then I can select one of these. Let's see, sometimes it doesn't want to work. There we go. If you go to properties, I'll show you how this kind of works. It should be showing me here. It'll show me properties for my shapes. If I go to, I have an option to change the color. So I can change that color anything I want. And you'll see that it changed it all the way across. What I did here is I created, this is my box for patterns. I created 4 patterns and I duplicated it to make 4 rows. And I have some space in here. And what these are is actually just a layer. So when you add one, you have a layer for each of these images that's in this box. So I could select all of these images either here by holding down the Shift key and clicking each one, or I could highlight over here and I can then go in and I can move this down and you'll see how it respaces that way. Then to add other shapes, if you have them, you go to your menu and always keep in mind that each one of these panels has its own menu. I'm going to go to shapes here and I'm going to click on my menu that I showed you in the PowerPoint and I'm going to say import shapes. And I set up a whole folder just for shapes, or presets actually, Adobe Presets, because the default goes to the Adobe program file and it's always hard to find it. So it doesn't matter where you save your presets as long as you know where to find them. I have imported all of these at the top and I've got 2 here that I have not imported yet. And I'm not real sure what's included in this one. So I'm going to load it. It always comes down at the bottom. And right here is that one that's untitled, and all it has is a frame in it. It's one I got a long time ago. I'm not real sure what that is. I think it's included in another one. So I could just delete this group and take it out of there because I don't want it anymore. So then I can go back and import this next one that has something in it, Christmas shapes. Load it. And then it comes in at the bottom. So it's got all kinds of Christmas shapes in it. And then I can change the view of it from a list to a thumbnail. And that's the large thumbnail. And then it shows me everything that's in that group. Let's go over here and let's start a new one. So we're going to create a new file. And it doesn't matter what size you have here. I just created 250 by 250, and I made it a transparent background because I don't want to have a color on my background necessarily. I could if I want to, but I don't want it at this time. So we have our board here that we're going to work with. So we want to go up to view, and we want to select pattern preview, because what that's going to do, you're going to be able to see how your pattern looks as you're working with it. I can go in here and I can select any of these patterns that I want to use. Say I want to use the reindeer. So I bring it over here, and it usually creates it real big. So all you have to do is just size it down as small as you want it, and see how it automatically changes all of the other patterns. And then I can, let's see, leave that there. Okay, I have to change. Okay, there we go. Let's see, let me go back here, and I'm going to resize it again. And I can move it around. See how it's moving on in my blue square? So I can put that anywhere I want it. And I can recolor it by being on the properties and appearance. And I need to acknowledge here. It asks me if I want it or reject it. So I can go in here and I can color it. And I can also go to the color picker, and I can select a different color here for my reindeer. And it automatically changes all of them. So then I can go back to my shapes, and let's pick another Christmas pattern or shape. And like I say, you can use you can have your own kinds of shapes, but I'm just using these because it's quicker just to show you. So if I want to add the wreath next to it, I just add it there. Now it's set to brown. So here, up here at the top, I have to acknowledge that I want that. And then I can color it, say we make it a green. So all of them turn green there. So we'll pick one more. See if we have there's a snowman. Let's do this snowman here. We'll bring him in and add him. And then we have a snowman that we can color acknowledge there. Any color we want to make him. So we make him, but that doesn't show up. Let's see. Make him a deeper color. There we go. There's our snowman. Now, if you want to make a row of them, we could add more here. We could also move it down and rearrange it wherever we want. And you can automatically see how your background is going to look. So say we take the wreath and we move it in the middle somewhere. But say you have them all in a row. There we go. And you want to make several rows of these same shapes. You can also go down to your layers panel. I can get it up here where you can see it. And there we go. So there's you can see where I'm selected in my layers, and I can rename my layers. And so if I move him, let's see, I've got to get him on my cursor. There. Get him, catch him just in the right spot. There we go. Moving up here. So say I want several rows of these shapes. I can either select them all in the layers panel, or I can select them one at a time. Then I can duplicate my layers, and I can name it if I want to. And then I can just highlight these copies and then just drag them down. Oops. Oops, I only got that one. Let's see, I think I still have a, well, sometimes they don't want, can't catch it right in the right spot, and it doesn't want to drag. There we go. That one didn't get duplicated though. So let's go back. We're going to select all three of those. We're going to duplicate them. And so we're going to get it to drag now for me. Didn't want to drag. Oh, I didn't want to drag now. But that's what I did on this one. I duplicated these layers and then I drug them down where I wanted them to go. And what I did also is I rearranged them, because this one you see I have the eagle. I was just picking some random shapes, didn't mean anything. And then I rearranged them. I just drug them, picked one, and I drug it to another position. And then you can make random shapes. There was one real cool thing that they did where they created a line across and then down. Well, two lines across, and then they rotated so it was a grid, and then put some shapes in there. So there's all kinds of things you can do with any function in Photoshop to make your patterns. Now, when you get through with your pattern, you just go to your patterns panel now, and you would just, let's see, oh, here. When you're in your panels panel, you have a plus sign here, so you can click on it, and it's going to give you an option of saving it. So I already saved it once, so I'm just going to say Adobe Pattern 2, and OK. Now you've got, over here, you've got your pattern. Now, what you can also do is say you don't want it up here with those other, you can drag it. You should be able to drag it down there. It's not going to let me do that. So let's go up here, and we're going to add a new pattern group. And we're going to say custom, maybe. And let's see if I can drag them now into my custom folder. Okay, then I can take this one and drag it up here and see how it puts a bar next to the one that was already there. Drop it. Now they're both in a custom, but they're under trees. So I'm going to take the trees and I'm going to drag it up to wherever I want it to be. And then I've got my grass patterns that were defaults from Photoshop. And then they have these legacy patterns. And all you do to activate those is to go to your menu and click on Legacy Patterns and More, and it automatically will load them for you. And then you have stone patterns, wood panels, patterns. And then the same thing with the shapes. And with the shapes, I loaded the legacy shapes that were available under the menu. So I just clicked on legacy shapes. And so these are all different shapes. They have trees, conifer trees. So you have just all kinds of shapes that you can use. These are all still part of that legacy. You have signs. So you can really go wild with whatever you want to create. And so what I did, another thing I wanted to show you about rearranging things is, let me go up here and close. Let's see. I had some frames, and these are some frames that I had that I'd gotten from somewhere. And then I realized that there was only one frame in each folder, and this one said 32. I've got 30, 28, and I want them all in one. So all I had to do is just open, have one made folder group. So I created a new group, and I just drug these into one folder. So I can see them all at one time, and I don't have to open each one separately. Then what I can do is I can go in and delete these groups. I just highlight them, right click, and then say delete groups. Or yeah, with saying shapes, but, and then if you want to rename them, you just right click on that group and you can rename it. So you can call it anything you want. There. So those are some ways that you can work with patterns. And I think you could really create some cool things. So, but just remember, every time you add a shape, no matter what it is, it's going to create a layer. So you could do anything you want with this layer. You could even go into your, say we bevel that one or do something with it. Let's see, where's my, there it is. So let's see how it's beveling that. It's the flower that's highlighted. So you could do anything you want with those shapes in addition to just adding them in there or changing the color of the shape. Let's see, I think that's all that I had to show you on here. And because when I first started working with the Adobe Presets, I could never find them because they were always saved under the program folder for the app. So I just created my own, and I realized it doesn't matter where you store them. Once you pull them and import them into your Photoshop panel, whichever, whether it's a pattern shape or brushes or whatever, it didn't matter where it was to begin with. So that made it a lot easier for me. Did I miss anything? Are there any questions?
I guess you can use guidelines and redistribution within the automatic redistribution.
You mean like this?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And make sure everything's lined up.
Yeah.
Yes, you certainly can. You've got full range of all Adobe options and functions. All you're doing is creating a repeating pattern. And I know in the past, I've always, I've tried to find repeating patterns, but they're hard to find. And sometimes you'll find backgrounds, but they don't really repeat symmetrically, especially for a website. So this has really come in handy.
It looks like you can also change the actual shape. These are vector points. It looks like shapes. And
Yes.
you
Yeah, you can
change the shape
rotate it.
too.
Right. You can rotate it. Let's see if we can see. You can come in and do anything you want.
Click on one of those. Yeah, right.
You sure can.
If you click on one of those little squares, you should be able to modify the shape. If you zoom in, you can see what you're doing probably a little bit more of it.
Yeah. So you can make any size you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I come outside of my staging area there, then it just overlaps. So no matter what you want to do, you can, your imagination is.
I kind of like that actually, the whole thing there.
Yeah. Let me go to one of the websites. I want to show you. I'm going to go to, if this is one, then I'll share. Okay, let me share this screen. This is one of the links that I'm giving you, and you can see how they rotate that image to create this one. But there's another one that was really interesting. This is the one, watch this, what they do. I can't put it back, but we'll let it run a couple times. So you'll see how they start out with bars across there, and then they rotate one of them and make a grid. And then they start putting patterns in there, and they put a background on it. So you can see the unlimited ways that you can create patterns. And I think I gave you that link. I'm sure I did, to this one. Let me go back to the Photoshop. Okay, and you can use it, if someone's into scrapbook paper, brochures, stationery, in addition to websites or just any other kind of graphics. I mean, it's just really cool.
Make your own wallpaper.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And like I say, I just threw this together. The colors and the images don't go together too good, but I have all of these shapes that I would be glad to share with you if you're interested in them. I'll just drop them into a Dropbox link and email them to you. But you can see, let's see, here's what I've done on some of them, because you can't preview from a file like this. You can't tell what's in there. What I did is I came and I did a screen print of these shapes. So I just highlighted those, and I saved it as a ping file that went along with the frames. So if I go into, I'll do a new share of my files. So can you see my files here? These are the shapes, and I have imported all of these shapes. These are just some that I've gotten. A lot of these came from Korean or just different places. So for instance, this one in the gym, I can't see what's in there. There's no preview. But I went in and I highlighted what was in that panel, and then I did a JPEG or a PNG of it. So then I've got a preview. I could go in here, and if I wanted to know what all is in there and I wasn't in Photoshop, for instance, say you're, for some reason you're in a different program or whatever. So that's one way you can, that's what the PNGs are. This one's on carpets, and I'm not sure, but the CSH file, I can't preview it, but I did a ping, so I can at least halfway see what's in there.